some Bluetooth headphones, and they're not the best. So I'll try to speak up. But here we are in the Old Quarter section of Hanoi, and this place can't be overdeveloped. So these buildings, as old as they can't be knocked down, and they can't be put in with new architecture and shit like that. It's all protected and whatnot. But there's other areas that are more modern. So I figured I'd bring you guys on a little bit of a stroll through the area to see what I see and have a bit of ramblings. Yeah, the social dynamics here are completely different. Very interesting stuff. Completely different. And like, well, I mean, like between men and women. And I wouldn't say that the ladies are second class and treated poorly, but they certainly don't have the same amount of respect that and influence and power that a man does. It's very patriarchal. And of course, the government here is communist and very firm. So if you're out of line, you're punished severely. Like you can go to jail very easily here. So everyone's pretty like well behaved. Like you're not going to see fights on the street. You're not going to see drunken belligerents. Um, there's no homeless. Like I saw one I saw one homeless person, and I was like, oh wow, like there's a homeless person, and my friend was like, no, they're just play acting for tourists, just to gain money. Because there's like a lot of hustlers here. Like everybody's a hustler, and I guess that's the case, in countries where it's not massively thriving economically. So there's a lot of people coming up to you, try to push up on you with various things to sell, bracelets, incense, fucking ball caps. There's not a lot of like top quality stuff here, aside from their locally brewed beer, which is really really good, and their coffee. You can see this. So this right here is rare. A traffic light. A traffic light is fucking rare. Um, Most streets do not have traffic lights, and you just basically gotta weave your way through oncoming traffic like you're playing that game Frogger from Atari. And you walk in the streets basically because look, like the sidewalks are all just filled with mopeds. Well, looks like there's a little bit of a path here. But yeah. So in some areas it feels like Timu just like exploded into a village. Like as far as like the quality of things for sale, there's not. It's like there's a lot of like low quality stuff, and then there's like shit like this where there's high-end jewelry, fragrances, really expensive wine. There's bespoke suit tailors, but aside and the very good coffee. Like the coffee here is phenomenal. But aside from that shit, like there's not a lot of like quality goods that are for sale, like at least readily available in the town. But it's very cool. The food is amazing. People are very nice. But yeah, I was listening to what was it? Debate this morning, The Crucible. That was interesting. And I was listening to what's his name there with the cigarette smoking guy. He's very knowledgeable about philosophy and religion, and listening to like a lot of the ethics that he falls on as far as relationships go. And I'm with the dude like all the way, like except for the faith thing. And I just can't get there. I don't really understand how faith works because you can't just one day like choose to believe something, right? Because there's an emotional component to it. And you can't really force, well, thank you. You can't really force or manufacture certain emotions. And beliefs without emotion is just theory. And in order for like a belief to really hold strong, is that it has to have a strong emotional component. Oh, so we have here one of the many temples that are here. Lots of temples, and they've got really good incense burning here as well, like everywhere. It smells good. Reminds me of when I was living at the temple in upstate New York. Yep, some really nice hotels as well. But yeah, I can't get past the whole belief thing. Like I don't know how one just like goes into it. Oh, nice, Miss Spinelli. It's rare to see like an actual motorcycle here. Even like it's rare to see a Benelli, which is odd. But most it's just like stuff like this, mopeds. It's like one out of every thousand you'll see a motorcycle. But yeah, what I noticed through all that stuff is like listening to where that guy was coming from about belief structures, top down models first coming from God and then filtering through the relationship. And I do the same stuff. Like I operate the same basic architecture. It's just there's not a thing above me aside from my program, and that's okay. Um, I mean, it's fine. Like if you've got a program above yours, that's perfectly fine. But I don't. I never did. I was raised secularly, and I think that's a big part of it. Like if you don't have exposure to, when your brain is more susceptible to suggestion or more open to suggestions, then it's harder to kind of bring that stuff into you later in life, I think. But the thing is that whatever it is, whether you've got a system above you, say like a religious system or something along those lines, or you have your program, either way, it's got to be thought out. So your program needs to be just as well thought out as, say, a religious program. And because that's the only way that it really functions well, right? Like imagine if you had a religious system that was really, really vague. And I know parts of it you could criticize and say, well, yeah, it is. There's a little cutie. There's one could say that religious systems are vague, and but if you dig into it, there's a lot of details, a lot of rules about how to go about shit, what's expected of behavior, what's expected of your mindset, where your heart should be, and so there's a lot of detail that's been built up over the years, and or the hundreds of years. And if you're going to say you got a program to follow, then it should be equally as detailed, equally as structured, equally as thought out. And this is really how you can go about operating things with a whole lot less stress and anxiety um, from from the standpoint of being in a relationship. There's some cuties there, man. All right, I gotta weave my way through this shit. Yeah. You just end up going. So yeah, here's a cathedral here. This is a French cathedral because Vietnam was occupied by the French. I don't know when, at what point in time, but they were. So there's a lot of influence here. I like those cute too. Um, there's a lot of French influence here, like in the food, in certain words, certain customs. It's pretty cool. And then when I went to Sapa, there was even more obvious French influence. Like the architecture there is known as Indochine, and it's absolutely amazing. I think I posted some of the pictures on my IG stories. You know, but as I was saying, I was talking about structure, and I was like, "Oh, honey, she's hanging out." As I was saying, when you've got a structure that's like behind you, right? It acts like scaffolding, you know. I haven't been back here before, so we're gonna explore this. So yes, it acts as scaffolding to kind of hold everything up, and so you don't have to really rely on your emotional instincts, your knee-jerk reactions to stuff. That's really unexpected. I wonder what portion of the Vietnamese are Catholic or Christian for that matter. It'd be, I don't know. But anyways, so yeah, the if you've got that structure, you don't have to rely on anything else, and it also prevents certain things from occurring, such as emotional reactions, knee-jerk responses to stuff, and which is a skill in and of itself. It's a skill in and of itself. I love the style of rocks here. I don't know what it is. You see it a lot in like Japanese ink paintings. I think it's called ukiyo-e, and I don't know. Is it lava rock or something? Usually it's black, but yeah, beautiful types of pine they've got. It's nice. And the thing is that a woman, she can sense this shit. Like you don't think so, but it's like the moves are all very, very subtle. They're very subtle. And what I mean by subtle moves is that the shifts within you, the internal shifts are very subtle. There's not large pronouncements of belief or anything like that. It's nothing radical. There's just these subtle shifts. And then over time, those subtle shifts will accumulate. And once they start accumulating, then your your approach to self, your approach to the woman, your approach to life, it all becomes quite different. And the result is that you, for the most part, are pretty much immovable. It's the immovable center, and it's actually mentioned in chapter one of my book that I'm writing. Got a 20 page, or I'm sorry, a 20 chapter book that I'm writing, all about cultivating your uh, your masculine presence, your dominance, developing that core pillar of granite inside you. It's like school, maybe. It's cool. But yeah, the unmovable center, and it's not about like being cold. It's not about being aloof. That's not being immovable. That's being disconnected. right? You're actually pretty damn well connected when you are centered. Okay. The difference is that it doesn't it doesn't move you, right? So you still feel joy, anger, sadness, annoyance, all sorts of stuff, every single emotion. But it, instead of coming to you, sticking to you, and then altering how you behave, it just passes through. And that's the key element. And that takes practice. It takes practice to allow these elements to pass through you, and you can go unaffected. Oh, that's interesting. So it's like they got like just this raw piece of stone and then just polished the top of it so that you can just sit. That's pretty cool. But yeah, so, and this is what I mean when I say ego permeability, right? Because, like, let's say, woman, say you're like driving with your woman or something like that, and something happens, there's like an emergency situation, you swerve out of the way, she starts freaking out. She's like, why did you do that? Oh my gosh, we could have died, right? And um, if you don't have ego permeability, you're likely going to deer the situation, right? Which is to defend, explain, excuse, or rationalize. So in that situation, your ego would defend. And you say, what? No, I was doing the best I did, for that situation. If I didn't do what I did, we would have died, or the car would have been fucked up. Like, you're lucky that, I was here, all sorts of shit, all kinds of defending. What do you mean? It was the other guy's fault, blah, 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 right? And and that's where the ego is full, right? It's got density to it, and this is what prevents you from actually developing as a man. You're In order to move forward and move through your stages of manhood, um, you actually have to allow your ego to be thinned out and to allow things to pass through you. And it kind of feels like you're taking an L, but you're not accepting blame or fault or anything like that, but you're just allowing yourself not to defend. And that's where it becomes important. You don't want to teach your ego to continuously defend itself, right? Because the ego is an illusion. It's an illusion sense of self. It's not really who you are. And the more you do this, the more in touch with your true masculine self you actually become. But it doesn't feel like it right away because it's painful. And you're thinking, ooh, this hurts. I don't like this feeling. I'm going to veer away from it. And that just actually takes you further away from manhood and keeps you stuck in boyhood. That's really what happens. And so you have to let the L's come through to traverse the currents from boyhood to manhood. Yep. And the more you do this, the better you get at it. And so every time, imagine it passes through you for the first time, some sort of emotional upheaval, and that knee-jerk reaction of feeling bad about something and coming through, it bumps you as it passes through, like it's a big bump. And then the next time it happens, if you don't defend yourself, it's slightly less of a bump. And then again, it's slightly less of a bump. And every time it happens, the the like the energy and the emotions that pass through you become stronger and less resisting because you're resisting it less. So it just passes through and passes through easier and easier and easier. Okay. And this is what allows you to then at the same time on the side develop stillness within this. And that is the thing that a woman recognizes. And she can recognize it without you having to state anything about it. She recognizes the stillness emotionally. And this is what allows her to calm and to slip into more of her feminine because that signals to her, I can be myself. I can open up. He's not afraid of my storms. He's not going to buckle. He's not going to waver. He's not going to fucking move at all with any of my storms, whether it's something situational or something that has to do with him. He's unmoved by any of it. And that's in stark contrast to her position. It's her position that is moved by the slightest change in weather, the slightest change in the winds, right? Ever see like a girl, like she could be having a great day, and then one thing goes wrong, and that turns into this cascade. It turns into this cascade to the point where, I mean, if it's bad enough, she'll be like, life sucks, everything sucks, I hate my life. And it was just one little instant. And that's how women operate. So when they see a man who, or they're near a man or experiencing a man who is even remotely like that, this triggers a great deal of fear. It triggers a great deal of fear in them. And they cannot trust you. So how can you possibly expect submission from a woman who does not trust you because you have the emotional strength of a newborn baby? You don't have any resilience. And resilience is not to resist something. Resilience is to withstand something. Right? Someone who has like resilience against the cold. You know, like that. Who's that guy? Wim Hof, right? You know, the guy who's like famous for spending hours and hours in sub-zero freezing water, just chilling. He can withstand. He has a tremendous amount of resilience to cold. All right. He's not pushing back against it, is he? He's in full acceptance of it, full acceptance of what is. And he becomes immersed in what is going on at the moment. I'm going to check another app really quick. I hope this doesn't fuck up my video. Yeah, this is a cool little street. Yeah, there was also a lot of relations and between this government and the Russian government, so that you'll see a lot of the Vietnamese flags posted with the um, the Russian flag. Yeah. But yeah, and that's the beginnings of true submission, right? You guys think that it's the woman's job, it's her part to submit, and it is her role. Like, I mean, who else is going to do it, you know? But it's not something that she's like ultimately choosing to do or not to do. Okay, what do we got here? Oh, nice, CB 400. So yeah, it's not something she's choosing to do or not to do. Submission, because I mentioned this before, with women, their entire systems are integrated. They cannot separate. I mean, unless they're really fucked up, they cannot separate their bodies from their spirit, from their minds, from their heart. It's a unified system. And when all of them are affected at once, that's when she submits. Oh, look at that guy. And this is a cutie. So, and so by the way to access these things, the way to access her submission, to open it, to open that gate. Reminds me of like the of Rock Lee and the gates that he was going through with his like chakra gates or whatever. So to open up that gate of submission, it requires trust. And you guys might be thinking like, oh yeah, Mel, I had her on her knees. She was calling me sir for weeks, you know, and that's not real submission because it's not anything found in action. It's something found in her state of being. And here's the thing, how you hear the phrase like one should lead by example. Well, if your state of being is quite established, it's dense, right? It has gravity to it. It's a sense of knowing who you are from a very like deep and profound level. Oh, I don't want to be out here. I'm going to turn around. There's no question of it. There's no doubt. There's no doubt in who you are. This is this is the thing. It starts setting that tone of example for for her, that she can join you in this presence, right? Which again requires trust, right? Because girls, they're judged constantly, all throughout their life, from their little kid, right? They're judged by society, their parents, governments, themselves, the media, all sorts of stuff. So this kind of like tweaks their brain, right? It gives them many minds. I talked about that too. It gives them many minds, fractures their mind, and a lot of it is just filled with worry, anxieties, judgments, beliefs, perceptions, and so on. It's a cool spot. And and so yeah, as a leader, you've got your work cut out for you. But when you are grounded in yourself, when you're that guy, I love these vines. When you're that guy, it's not, it doesn't feel like work, right? Because you're just being yourself and you're communicating through that, you're behaving through that. There's no doubt and fear are the mind killers. So, so this is what begins that trust when she senses that you're not judging her, and it's the feeling, the feeling more or less is like benevolent indifference, if that makes sense, right? Because if I say, oh, you should be indifferent, then that's not really. Look at this dude, fucking giant, some kind of gas on the back of his thing. It's crazy. But yes, if I say just indifference in general, you're going to be thinking cold. You're going to be thinking, I don't care. That's a pretty cool spot. You're going to be thinking, I don't care. I don't give a shit. Right? Like that's well, this is a cool area. It's like everything's like tucked away deep with the streets. Kind of reminds me of Europe a little bit. So it's not, it's a type of indifference, but it's not cold. I just want to look at these bikes. It's not a cold indifference, right? It's a little bit benevolent. It's a little bit more easygoing. Oh, this must be rentals. See, this is where I should have came. I wanted to get on these guys and get into the rural areas when I was in Sapa. That's probably so much fun. God damn. Well, anyways, so as I was saying with this benevolent indifference, is that they can sense this. They pick up on it emotionally. And what is the feeling? The feeling is like he doesn't care, but he's not dismissive about it. And that's really what becomes significant. I don't care, but I'm also not blowing you off like a piece of fucking lint from my shoulder. So it's like holding but not holding, caring but not caring. And being in this, I don't know, in between state. This is really where you need to be comfortable as a man, where you hold that place of being indifferent and different, if that makes sense. What's up, little guy? Interesting. But yeah, so when that trust starts, this is where it becomes really, really imperative that you do have this structure. That you do have the structure. Now, if you're a religious person and that's your guiding light, cool. If not, then you're gonna have to figure it out. You're gonna have to design this shit, or you just get in touch with me, and I can help you design your program such that you actually have that architecture to lean on. And this is this is something where her trust can go into. So, so where her trust can go into, because trust is soft, trust is liquid, it's fluid. It doesn't really ask for anything except don't destroy me. That's basically all it is. It's basically asking like don't destroy me because it's like a snail that's left its shell, completely gooey and squishy, easily damaged. Mm, smells good. And that's why your solidity of self, what do we have here? Street chickens. That's why the solidity of self is so important. This is why you guys got to get off this whole like, you know, this like interest in pussy. It's really distracting. You know, I get it. There's this weird, push pull sort of thing going on where it's like, you got coaches out here saying, yeah, get all the pussy. This is how you get pussy. Sleep around as much as you want. Uh, try to get girls on the first date, that sort of thing. And then you got like people like me. You got people like in the religious sectors of things saying, oh, like that's like a waste, right? And yeah, I'm definitely on the side of not wasting your seed, not wasting your dick. I think it's very important to preserve these things. Yeah, and of course, there's a difference between preserving and knowing that you could spread it out, and preserving and knowing you couldn't spread it out, right? Because like swearing off women, or at least like putting a stopper on women when you can't get girls in the first place, well, then you're not really doing much. But you know, it does say that you value yourself. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that just because you can't get girls, because really your value has nothing to do with women. That's what's that's not what's important. Man, it's fucking humid here. Like if you don't like humidity, don't come to Southeast Asia. It's straight up like jungle. But yeah, it becomes, when you put that kind of value on yourself, plus your structure, your rules, making things earned, it kind of starts to reflect the whole religious religious structure, right? Because they're like basically, I'm back here because I'm actually meeting someone, but it's basically they're saying you can't get into the kingdom of heaven unless you do X, Y, Z, right? You got to play the game if you want to win, and and that's the same kind of mentality you need to adopt as a man. And the more defined you are, the more you understand yourself, the rules and the values that you will put up on a pedestal, that you will gild with gold, and not allowing anything to be given away for free, right? Except for your curiosity, right? So it's just just kind of passing by and looking at a cute girl and going, cute girl, right? But there's really, aside from that, like nothing that you should be giving away for free. Okay. And this is really where you start, kind of donning this aura, right? I learned that's like one of this, like the young kids, that's one of their terms, aura. Your aura of like this like kingdom of heaven. No, thank you. The kingdom of heaven aura. I gotta, I really don't know a whole lot about deeper aspects of religion, but I can't imagine God having some days that He lets people into heaven um, when they really don't deserve it. It's like, you know what? I'm feeling lenient today. You were kind of a shithead in life, but you know what? Don't worry about it. It's a Wednesday. I'm feeling kind of lenient. I'm a little tired, so yeah, just come on in. Okay? Or like, yeah, you're pretty cute, so just come on in. We'll get you straightened out later. No, like that sounds ridiculous. There's cutie. So there's there's no days where you can be like lenient with your structure, lenient with your kingdom. You cannot do it. You cannot be lenient. You cannot be soft. And it's good for you to adopt this sort of stuff because it flies in the face of your trappings, your nice guy syndrome trappings that keep you in a state of boyhood. And I know that like a lot of people, a lot of guys, they're brought to YouTube. They're brought to YouTube with the aims of getting a girlfriend, getting laid, um, trying out some sort of lifestyle thing, seeing out how to play her, how to have more than one girl, how to sleep with a girl on the same day that you meet her, like all that sort of shit, right? And the funny thing is that once you have it dialed in, and I mean like these larger ideas that I'm talking about that have to do with you, right? The kingdom of God stuff, all that. Is Earl like really posing with his phone in front of the church? That's funny. Um, so once that stuff is dialed in, all of that, all those carnal desires, they become exponentially easier to fulfill. The funny part is that you care about 80% less. It's weird. It's really weird. But I guess like that's what happens with abundance, right? You take a starving person and food becomes this massive priority. Huge. But if you have an abundance of food and nutrients at your fingertips, then you really can say like, yeah, you know what, I'm not all that hungry right now. Whereas like a starving person, like even if they just ate, they'll try to like take in more food, stuff it in their pockets, like they're loading up because they don't know when it's going to happen next. But just understand that when when you are dialed in, all of that shit that you want happens. They fall into the submission. And if you know what you're doing, you can figure it out. I can help you, but you can mold these things. You can mold the whole situation. Like I've got a girl right now. I don't even have to fuck her for her to come. Not at all. All she has to do is suck my dick, and she can suck my dick to the point of her having an orgasm because that's the way I made it. And if I don't want that to happen, I just give her another instruction. This is not going to happen. And it can take all kinds of creative forms, whatever you want. But that was just one example. But anyways, all right. Just got a call, so I'm meeting up with somebody right now. I'm gonna let you guys go. Thanks for hanging with me, and yeah, maybe I'll do another one in a little while later. Take it easy for now.